creation of Ferrari Virtual Academy in 2010, when I had also my first lab, real lab at the North Life.
Okay.
And that day I decided that, okay, we need to have this track in our software with our physics, because I loved it so much.
Best decision ever.
Yeah, definitely, yes. I'm proud. I manage also the licensing in our company. And finding an agreement with the with the Nürburgring GmbH has been really tough, because they had some issues with their government for more than 2 years. So when I finally, I really catch them up. Probably they started to hate me because I paid them calls, emails, and then when I saw that Gran Turismo 6 had the North Life, and we were still waiting, I said, come on, they do that, and we still waiting for your answer. At the end, when we signed the agreement and I received the agreement, believe me, for me has been as good as when we signed the deal with Ferrari. Same.
Yes.
Because I really, and I found a very old video on my hard disk when the GoPro didn't exist yet, with our hand camera fixed in the Mini we rent at the airport when we lapped it the first time. And at that point I was saying with Valerio, that was my colleague, he was driving. Oh, Valerio, can you imagine how it could be amazing to have this track, laser scanner, in our game? And looking back at the same video and seeing the North Life in our game, actually, has been like a sort of dream. So it's been, I really love this place, because North Life is unbelievable.
Yes.
And all the structures here, the location is perfect for the SimRacing Expo, because you can meet the players, the companies, and you are not in a generic location, but you are inside the track. And since we have been with our studio inside the Vallelunga circuit for 7 years, we can understand how can help your work and your project to stay very close to the real track, the real drivers, the real race engineers. They are very skeptical at the beginning to share with you their data, but then when they discover that they can get upstairs and come in our studio and test and have the training for their drivers on the same cars, on the same track, they started to understand about the value of the simulations, not just Assetto Corsa, but in general. And they, in the last years, they started to use the simulators much more than in the past. So that is good for us, it's good for them, and it's good for the players, because they can obtain a better connection between the real and the simulation. So, and we are here because we are passionate guys, as well as you. We started, as you could start tomorrow, to create your own company, because we wanted to make something different. And when we looked back, today we had an interview with the SimRacing Expo, and we were me, Stefano, and our representative in Porsche. And he was telling that they decided to choose Assetto Corsa because the depth of details, after an exclusive of 13 years with electronic cars, it was like a dream, because you know, we started as gamers. When I purchased the Grand Prix Legends in '98, I felt so in love with it that I said, okay, I had to be involved in this business, because now definitely I love it too much. So I started to purchase a lot of different driving wheels just to be better on the track with Grand Prix Legends, but it wasn't the case, because it was really tricky. But I really felt involved in the simulation. So when me and Stefan, we started to consider to work together, we go that with the philosophy to create the most authentic experience we were able to create. And I believe that after 13 years, very hard job, we did a good job, and we see that when people like you come to us and they appreciate what we have done, for us is the best result we could achieve. It's better than the licensing, it's better than the money. So
especially because you focus on road cars, I think that's a very unique selling point of your simulator, because no other does this in this kind of detail. I remember playing Air Factor, the first one, and had the modded Nordschleife, which of course was very inaccurate, but was good enough because it's the Nordschleife.
Yeah, definitely, yes.
And then you guys came around with the laser scan Nordschleife that we have always wished for to happen, and it was simply amazing to have a yellow bird, for example, to replicate the drift video that you can see on YouTube.
Amazing. There is a funny story about the modding version of the Nordschleife. I don't remember the name of the guy, the modder who created it.
Alex Humler, glaube ich.
Maybe, yes.
He's now part of the race room.
While we were waiting to go to come here on the track to get the laser scan, the picture, and so on, since we take advantage of this track recognition, also to have some laps for us, I get some training before to come here with a modded version of the Nordschleife for Assetto Corsa, so that I can get more entertainment, I can go better on the track and so on. And I did the same with Gran Turismo. And so I go for the first lap, and it was awful because I completely messed the bands, the corners, and so okay, forget the memory, just drive. And we have seen that with the laser scanned version it was completely different. Yes. Not because it was a completely different track, but in terms of details. Yeah.
There's a natural flow that wasn't there in the mod section.
On the other side, there is the worst part of the sim racing, that is Fanatec, as you can see. Yesterday we had a lot of fun, because I don't know if you were close when Thomas, the CEO of Fanatec, was driving with the Oculus. So he didn't see the steering wheel. I put my hand on that, applying an opposite force to him, complete silence, a slight force just to not mess everything, but in order to avoid him to drive properly. I guess that he recognized it immediately about that there was something wrong, but instead he continued to drive for at least 20 seconds.
He's a professional.
It was like that, yeah. And at the end he went off the Oculus with a face, what the hell is going on with this wheel, and we were dying.
What do you think about the new Fanatec? Did you
direct drive?
Yeah.
Well, I tried it with the Project Cars 2, so that since I don't know very well Project Cars 2 yet, I had to wait until they make it available for purchase, so that I can try to do my own setup and I can evaluate it properly. So I can understand what is part of the software, what is part of the steering wheel. Yeah. But what I like so much is that it's very, very smooth. You don't have any kind of friction, and you got just some information, not too many information. The torque can be really hurt, because in some way there is too much torque, and when you don't recognize that you are losing the car, so that you react too late, you need to leave your hands off, because you could hurt.
They told the people then you can break your thumbs if you hold on to your
wheels. In fact,
and they put the torque down to about 30 to 50%, they told the people.
So I told them, please put a sort of disclaimer, also like, the nuclear weapons. When you have to turn two keys, make sure that people will understand that if they use this wheel, they could go to the hospital. Make sure they understand it before you sell it, because otherwise, especially in the USA, you will receive a lot of claims and suits, and you will go bankrupt before the wheel reach the shelves. But jokes apart, it's a very nice wheel, and I think that the more the direct drive wheels will be available on the market, also the average price will be lower, so that I hope that in the future much more people can decide to choose between a standard wheel and a direct drive wheel. As being the first time at the Expo, I tested different direct drive wheels. They are better than I supposed before. It's not a gimmick. Actually, there is a good difference between a commercial wheel and the direct drive wheels. So if I can save my hands, it could be a very good choice. Definitely. So,
maybe we should introduce ourselves. That was the purpose of talking to you, because I don't know if you know a German YouTube channel called Abgefahren. That's
honestly, the German YouTubers know, because our language is a bit different, so
and our English is not good enough to produce videos in English, but it's the second biggest German YouTube channel containing SimRacing content, and I think the most clicked one at this time. And we have the community with about, the YouTube channel has 27,000 subscribers, I think, at the moment, and the community contains 2,000, 3,000, 5,000. You can't really count them, because we gather them on a homepage, so to say, and we organize weekly community races with the random people that wants to join with Assetto Corsa. And I think this is the main sim for the channel is really Assetto Corsa, and that's not because you're sitting here, but that's just the fact that so we would like to introduce ourselves to get in contact.
Yesterday you were at the Project Cast booth, and you say the same.
I just arrived here, and I'm a little shaky knees because I have been taken to the Nordschleife an hour ago with a 400 PS car. And,
for the first time?
Second time, but first time with the car.
But it's always like the first time, actually.
Yes.
So,
really.
Which car, sorry?
Audi TT RS.
Wow.
Yes. That was pretty impressive. Which
I think is which
I think was said to come to Assetto Corsa at some point. Is that correct? I don't know, maybe the New Year's announcement.
It was one of the candidate cars, but we discarded the option because at the end we prefer to go for the Cup version.
Okay.
Because at the beginning I was scheduled to have the TT VLN and the TTRS road car. At the end we decided to move to the Cup car because it was racing more interesting. So we're not going to introduce that car in the future.
But it was still an amazing experience.
Absolutely, yes. I think also with a 500 Fiat 500, the National Life would be great.
The height difference and the corners.
The compression at the other now.
It's a road.
It was dry?
Yes,
dry
and pretty free. We got overtaken by one car, so
really?
Yes.
Wow.
Indicator left and
wow. Save the day.
Yes.
Doesn't happen every day.
But this guy drives 300 laps a year on the Nordschleife, so he knows what he's doing and he knows how to perform with a 400 horsepower car.
So you were a passenger?
Yes, a passenger.
Ah, a passenger, not driver. No. Oh, wow.
So, and it was a sub 8 lap, I think sub 8 minutes, so pretty cool.
Okay.
And my knees
I
a little shaky.
So, please go on.
That was just our main purpose, I think, to introduce ourselves, to say hi, and I think
my
yesterday
pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, that's nice.
Nice to meet you. It's not typical to meet the heads from.
This is one of the reasons we decided for the first year this time to attend the expo. It's our first time at the SimRacing Expo because we want to do meet some of our pro customers that use Assetto Corsa for commercial versions. Also because Porsche AG proposed us to stay together to create together the booth so that they brought the logistics and we managed for the cost of the stands and so on. And we are very proud to be here officially with the Porsche. But also because we wanted to hear from the customers, for our gamers, what they expect from the future, except for the night conditions and raining. Let me repeat before you ask that we are not going to
it's kind of a running gag.
These features now, because as you can imagine, after 4 years we are on the bumpers with Assetto Corsa engine in terms of graphics, in terms of sounds and physics and so on. We change things so many times. And believe me, decided, for instance, to update the trial model. You can take a seat. You make me nervous. Modifying the trial model. When you are in the middle of the process, your game is already on shelves, and you are still working on the new cars. You have to upgrade all the cars. Unless you are there just for commercial reason. If you want to make everything properly, we need to upgrade all the cars, and this means a huge job. Even because of people that already purchased the game and they don't pay for a subscription, they will get all the updates for free. that doesn't mean that we don't have to work on that. So we consider it a sort of an investment to make the community happy, and it works actually, because Assetto Corsa now is 3 years old, and it still says like the second, the third month that, believe me, is we never wonder things like that, because usually games you sell a lot in the first 3 weeks and then people forget about it. And people continue to ask us new cars, new features, new tracks, and so on. And this makes us very, very happy. But now we are on the bumpers with the physics, with the graphics, and so on. And while Project Cars, they announced Project Cars 2, I think 2 weeks after the release of the first one. And we can't wait another year before we move on something new. So there is a part of the team that is still working on the new content, new features, and so on. Next week we release the new Ferrari Pack, and by the way, I will give you my address so that let me know how many codes, Steam codes you want, and I will give you the SIM codes for the Ferrari Pack for free for all your team. And if you miss some other DLC, send me the list. We need this, and we'll be really happy to provide the codes.
3,000 community members?
No, not the first pictures, but
a lot of them are gonna ask for the BMW M6, but Stefano already told it's kind of difficult.
Yeah, definitely. We don't have, we'll not have this car in the game. I know we have announced it before, but we are negotiating our deal with BMW, so that I know that it will make sad some people, but we are not going to include this car in series. We can do everything for some reasons that you will understand at the proper time. But anyway, the release of next week will include also some features that the modding community asked to us to work, I think, on tiles, so that we are continuing to support the main games, not just about DLCs. And the proof is that we are working on Laguna Seca right now, and on a new bunch of 7-8 cars, and we release them at the end of the year, and it will be a bonus pack for free. So Laguna Seca laser scan for free, because we have been very late. It was scheduled to be released at the beginning of the year, but we had some bureaucratic issues, paper issues with the track before. And then the company that provide us the laser scan cloud, they had some technical issues with their devices, so they need to delay the recognition on track. So at the end we receive the data on late June. So we are working on it at the moment. So since people they are waiting a lot for Laguna Seca, we want to award the community for the great support they gave us, and this pack will be released for free.
In the meantime, while you were waiting for the bureaucratic things with Laguna Seca, was Simone is the track builder, I think?
Simone Trevisoli is our main...
Was he busy in that time, or...?
Was busy making some stuff, yes.
Little spoiler for one car in the upcoming DLC? One of the 7?
In the next bonus pack?
Yes?
The Giulia Alfa Romeo Giulia, for the Foglia. That is a very nice car. Stefano purchased it from himself, so and he's very satisfied about it. The Alfa Romeo 33 Stradale, that is a very classic car, one of the most beautiful cars you can find in the classic vintage series. The Lamborghini Performante, the Pagani Huayra BC version, and what else? The Maserati Quattroporte, that is, is not that kind of car that you expect to drive a lot in Assetto Corsa, but it's part of our agreement with Maserati. And we are very proud to see that the car manufacturers asked us to include in our game also cars like the Cayenne, the Macan, the Levante, and so on, because they want to promote their models in our game.
Yes.
And if you think that in 2011, 2012, for me, was really challenging to convince the car manufacturers to give us the license for our game, because Kunos Simulazioni was a pretty unknown company. We were already just made Netcar Pro and Ferrari Virtual Academy. So the first question when you contact a licensor, the first question he asks you which kind of products you made before, so that they can evaluate your work. Netcar Pro and Ferrari Virtual Academy, okay. Which other licensors you already have in your new game? Well, you are the first we contact. Okay, try again next time. If all of them do the same, you are going to never create nothing. So we are very glad and proud that companies like BMW, Lotus, Abarth, they gave us the chance. KTM, they gave us the chance. Okay, we believe that you are going to do a good job. We trust in you, so move forward. Let's do that. Even if you had to pay the license, and you always need to pay the license in advance.
Of course.
Despite the game will be successful or not, you have to pay in advance. That means that you have to spend a lot of money, not just for the development, but also for the licensing, much before the game reached the shows. And we started to sign our first agreement in late 2011, and the game reaches the early access version on late 13. So we lost 2 years of money just before the game was released. But at the end, we covered all the costs. The game has been much more successful than we
especially the console version with big sales numbers. I think.
Definitely, yes.
More bigger than
when we announced it,
the
the PC community, some people they start to say, okay, now they are going to mess everything because they will change the PC console to please the PC version to please the console audience. Why? The game is already there. And we are going to do exactly the same on console. There is no reason why we create a different game except for the user interface. Because people probably will purchase the console version because they heard about the reputation of Assetto Corsa on PC, and now we are going to change it. It would be crazy. Even because there are a lot of very great games, Forza, Project Cars, Gran Turismo, on console that are the perfect balance between the realism and the simulation. If you are going to do the same, actually, why people should purchase Assetto Corsa rather than Forza? Forza is much more better, much more cars, it's much more spectacular.
Rain and night.
Rain and night, thank you for that. So there is no reason why you should purchase Assetto Corsa on console if we make the same thing the other do. And we did, actually, we proved that they were wrong. So, and we are very proud to see that also a lot of console gamers are very happy about what we did on Assetto Corsa. On Xbox One has been a bit a mess, especially in the last period, because they updated their firmware and for some reason the game stopped to work. We didn't do nothing and the game stopped to work. So we needed to work with Microsoft to find out where the issues was. Finally, for twice we solved it, so the game now works again. We experienced that you need to be a bigger company if you want to create a game on several platforms. Actually, we would be at 3 times bigger at Kunos Simulazioni to bring the game on, also on PS4 and console. But it was our first porting, it's all experience, so we know for the future that we'll take the proper decision about which platforms to bring for our next products, and we'll see. But of course, the PC, our PC basis will never be betrayed.
Yes. I tried both versions on PC and PS4, and for the first time I tried it on the PlayStation. I was really stunned because it's the same feeling like PC in the PlayStation.
Definitely, yes.
And you can change it and you can drive the same as it
same setup, same values, same everything.
Yes, really a great, perfect job.
Well, the obvious question would be, will there be a successor? Because you say you are at the end of the potential of the first engine, graphics engine, physics-wise. So is there the thought of a potential successor to Assetto Corsa 1? Or do you already work on that? Do you...
a new game, actually.
Yes, of course.
We are making R&D. R&D means that we are experimenting different solutions for the graphics. We are making some experiment for the physics, for the sounds. Also because, for instance, we use F-mode for the sounds. It is an external library, and they continue to work on it to upgrade it. So when they release new features, we try to see if we can use some features for sounds and so on. Same for the graphics. We are evaluating if we can move forward for another made in-house engine or with a third-party engine. We are trying to understand what people want in terms of leaderboard, rankings, or streaming. The most asked questions here at the Sim Expo has been about to provide the tools for the streaming, for Twitch, and so on, to get a proper commentary, to have some instant replay, to have a sort of TV show also for the online racing. Something that we can do with Assetto Corsa at the moment, but it's something that we definitely take in consideration for the future. So this is as well as night and rain. We have a motto in our studio that whatever we'll do in future, even if Assetto Corsa 2 will be a space game, you have to have rain and night. No doubt about that.
I think it's a running gag within the community because most people know the engine can't handle it, but would need too much work.
We say that so many times, but because every day new people join with the Assetto Corsa community, they know nothing about that, so we can't expect that they go back to study and to know about 5 years of story of Assetto Corsa.
They may be kind of expected because
they make the most logic question. So where is the night and the rain? I have a surprise for you. There is no night and rain.
One other question, in the concept trailer I think and in the trailer for the new 250 GTO Ferrari, you can see the garage, I think, of Fiorano circuit. Yes.
Just the garage.
Are there any plans to maybe include the showroom at least of Fiorano? Garage as showroom, perhaps?
If we include the showroom, people will complain because they don't have the track, but for licensing limitations and also for racing limitations, because you don't have the pits. So you should run just for 2 cars, so people will start to complain for other stuff. So let's make things simple for just once, so Fiorano will not part of the... If people will start to knock our door in the office with complaining and with a mopping, under our windows, we'll start to take in consideration. You can start a petition on change.org. If you reach 200,000 signs, we can take it into consideration. But it was for a limitation of the license.
I don't think it's a very demanded track of the community, but I think the fact that it appears in the trailer can cause some confusion. I know, and also the other trailers will include some parts of the garage. So, yes.
But because it's a very nice garage.
That's true.
The
car looks very good. Yes.
I think you will be much more focused on the cars because.
But the community, they look at every detail and see if they can spot any news.
And rewind it 10 times and watch it again and again and look for the smallest detail.
I think that when the first teaser, the first gameplay video of Gran Prix 3 was released with the black arrows in Monte Carlo, I think I watched it hundreds of times, trying to discover any single possible details, because I've been totally addicted with the Grand Prix 2. So when they announced the third, I completely was waiting for it like a stalker. So I still remember that video to me because I saw so much potential. But it's been the same for a lot of people with Netcar Pro, our first simulation. Because the expectations were too high. We made too many mistakes. And some mistakes because we really underestimated the complexity of creating a commercial product. Also because we had a very little beta testing team, so that they were too focused on some details of the simulation, but not of the product. Just to make an example, there was the interactive cockpit. I don't know if you remember it, so that with the mouse you could actually you needed to click in the proper order the switches and the levers just to turn on the car. And even when the car was turned on in the demo version, the display didn't work as featured, because we wanted that you purchase the game in order to have the display working. But we didn't figure out that without having the RPM and the gear, the current gear, actually you can drive. So a lot of people, they thought that it was a bug because the display wasn't working. Because you clicked, nothing happened, but we didn't have any message. The display works just in the complete version. Nothing happened, so a lot of people, you release a demo that doesn't work. And why
should I buy the game if the demo
right,
is not?
And the game will be even worse. And actually the game was even worse than the demo at the beginning. It was very frustrating to us because we really didn't understand these little details that make a huge difference. Yes. But instead to abandon the project, okay, it didn't work, let's do Netcar 2 or something like else. We completed to work for more than 3 years on Netcar with all the free updates, because we wanted to turn it in the simulation that people were expecting. At the end we did it. Our reputation, our studio grew up. Abarth came to make their own online racing simulator. Then Ferrari came, and then step by step we added the proper basis to start to work on Assetto Corsa. So we think that when you work hard at the end of the cycle, you can get the proper results. And as well, we made a lot of mistakes in the past. It's important that you learn from your mistakes, so that you can make new mistakes, but you don't repeat the old one, so that you can always improve. For instance, the reason why we don't have the night condition in Assetto Corsa is because our engine was interesting for Ferrari and Dallara while it was still in development for their own simulators. But since they run it on 8-meter screens, they needed a huge resolution in 2012, where we didn't have that hardware that was able to guarantee that kind of performance. So if you use a forward engine, a rendering engine like Assetto Corsa is, you can guarantee that kind of performance. If you go with a deferred engine that can manage the night and day cycle like project cars, there is no way how you can guarantee that kind of performance in 2012. So we needed to decide, okay, we prefer the night or the money to work on the game and the Ferrari license. I think that the Ferrari license is better than the night. Yes. And that's the reason why we don't have the night. And we can change it now, because we needed to create a completely new rendering engine. And this is the reason for the night. About the wet. Sometimes we regret about the decision to not include the wet in Assetto Corsa, but it's something that is based on our experience with Netcar Pro. Because each time in Netcar Pro we added new features or new content, and we released them for free. We saw that there were some spikes also in the sales. So when we created and we included the 500 Abarth Assetto Corsa, we saw that a lot of people started to purchase the game again. When we included some other features for the online or for the modding for the track editor, we saw the spikes in the sales. When we included the what was the game, the MK2, that was actually a GP2 cars, people gone crazy and they started to buy the game again. Then we released the wet condition. And the weather is good because the graphics was good. We got the paddles, so that you get aquaplaning and things like that. So everyone very good. You got the light, the sun, the paddles, and so on. And we didn't see any spike in the sales. So we said, okay, everyone asked for it, but actually anyone using it. And we saw also on the servers that there was very few servers using the web. That's we believe that is normal. We have been with our studio for 7 years in a racing track, and believe me, I never heard a real driver, a professional driver, saying, "Oh, great! Today is wet. We are going to have a very nice race." Because when you are on the track, you want to push the car and yourself on the limit. And when it's wet, you can't do that. You definitely can't do that. In the real world, you got hundreds of information in any moment about what the car is doing, the kind of slip and grip you can get from the tire. But even on the wet, in the real life, you got a lot of mistakes because, you know, you can't know exactly how much grip you have. You can just try to stay alive. And in any simulation, it's even worse because you get 1/10 of the information you get from the real life. In the next product, whatever we do, we'll add the wet. Even because I understand it is very spectacular, it's a lot of fun because you can have a lot of drift. Yes. There is a reason why for Project Cast 1, I think 60 to 70% of all the videos and screenshots were made under the rain because you got the reflections. Is much more spectacular than at the same scenario on the dry, and it's the same for us. But we believe that after you tried it and you played it, you usually prefer to go to race on the dry. And believe me, there is a huge work behind for a lot of people to play on the wet. So, since especially in 2012 we were a company with 6 people working on Assetto Corsa, okay, we can't do everything. So, what we can bring in and what we need to left out, following the experience on the wet with Netcar Pro, okay, we can left the rain out. Sometimes we regret this choice because sometimes it would be nice to race on the wet, but we believe that has been the right decision for us then, because otherwise we could risk to make a mess with everything like we did with the Netcar Pro. We needed to be realistic about what we were able to do and what we not, in terms of timeline, in terms of budget, in terms of everything.
I think Aristotle is in an opposite opinion because he would have to rework time model 10, for example, for a lot of more factors than just the dry condition.
Yes.
And I remember him giving up his holiday for Christmas, for example, as he said in the forum, just to provide time model 10.
Right. And he's almost died to do that because he needed to upgrade also all the other cars.
Of course.
And if you include also the wet, then you don't have just one wet condition. You start to have hundreds of several kinds of tires because you have the intermediate, you have the EV rank tires and so on. And with 150 different cars, from the Fiat Abarth to the Ferrari FX6, we've gone crazy with that. If you want to make something that is realistic and you just don't play with some numbers and good luck. Since we needed to go deeper in details and we want to make everything perfect, there are too many variables with different kind of tarmac, asphalt road, different kind of cars, aerodynamics, and so on. Next time we go also for it.
That's the same experience I made in Factor 2, for example. It starts raining and the driving is challenging. That's perhaps an advantage because it's engaging and challenging and you have to concentrate on what you're doing, but it's not fun. It's not really enjoyable because it's hard.
Well, actually, I think that a good point of racing on wet is that you can improve a lot your sensibility, so that when you go on the dry, you can be even more effective in driving and more faster. I say this. I saw the same in the real world. When the very first time I ride my motorbike on the track, it was heavy rain. Was expected to have average light rain, and then it was heavy rain. I risked to die a couple of times, but the time after on the dry, I was like Troy Bayliss because I got on the track with no scare at all, no pain at all, and it was a really effective experience. So the wet can be good to improve your sensibility.
And to drift a GT86, for example, it should have 100 horsepower more. You can compensate that with the rain.
Yeah, you can try with the dust track. You can choose different kind of gripness, and there is also
the
dusty
tires on the GT86.
Yeah, so that you go for the slick with the dusty track, you can get a perfect match because you can struggle to go straight.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah,
Assetto Corsa.
You have to try it out.